Hello everyone, so this video is going to be a review of the three major vehicles that came out with Alpha 7. So that would be the BTR, the Humvee, and the Technical. And basically, I guess, my thoughts, tips and tricks, and kind of philosophy on the vehicles. So the first vehicle we'll go over is the BTR, because it's the biggest, it's the baddest. Why not start with that? So in my eyes, I think the BTR is an absolute killing machine. It's the best vehicle in the game, period, and I think that's pretty undisputed, simply because it can carry 13 people. It has a killer cannon on it, and that cannon can also zoom in. It's the most armored out of all three vehicles, and it's decently maneuverable. It's not really like as fast as the Techie, obviously, but it gets where it needs to go. So I guess my tips for using the BTR with generally any vehicle is to not drive it into anywhere that has close engagement ranges. Like, don't drive it into a town, don't drive it where there's a bunch of rocks and a bunch of trees, simply because the less distance between you and the enemy, the more danger that enemy will have. Simply because the BTR excels at long-range engagements with that zoom cannon, so you can really hit targets really hard from a long distance away, and there's no real need to restrict your field of view and restrict your movement in these condensed areas while exposing yourself to all these corners that RPG gunners can hide in. So that's my thought and my tip on that. I like to use the BTR as a transport with long-range fire support. It's really strong so that you can safely transport multiple people, but I would not risk it in direct combat zones inside of towns and, you know, really close quarters. But that's pretty much what I think about the BTR. It's a strong transport vehicle with a really long cannon. It should be used as such. Moving on to the Humvees. So the Humvees are pretty standard, and because they're so cookie cutter, I really like them. They're decently armored. They have a nice 50 cal slotted on the top, and they're pretty fast. They're a mixture between the BTRs and the Technicals right now, and I think that the Humvees do a really good job of transporting troops in really fast areas while allowing to kind of support at medium ranges with the 50 cal turret. Now the 50 cal is is best used when you're targeting things at a medium engagement range, and even actually for taking Technicals and BTRs, if you can maneuver yourself in a proper position, or even work with another Humvee to attack other armor. Like, it's really effective because you can outmaneuver the BTR, and you can just hit it from both angles. You can tag team it. It's really effective. If you have two Humvee drivers that know what they're doing, you can really mess up a BTR. And you got to just take advantage of that extra mobility on the BTR to destroy the BTRs. On the Humvees, I'm sorry. You gotta take advantage of the speed on the Humvees. But aside from that, I mean, it's got a medium capacity, so it's really good for taking your full squad in two Humvees and dropping your infantry off, and then having the BTRs push up behind the infantry. Now, the reason for this is that the infantry clears in front of the vehicle, and can drop any RPG gunners ahead of the vehicle that are planning to peek a corner and fire an RPG. Like, I've had a lot of success with walking the Humvees into a point, simply because everyone's scrambling to see where the Humvee's coming from on the enemy team, and they just pop out, and your infantry's scanning already, and you can easily bait the enemy out. So that's how I use the BTRs, and I think they do a perfect job of handling medium fire support and medium capacity transport. Finally, we're going to talk about the Technical, and there's a lot of controversy about the Technical, and it's really interesting. Like, people think Technicals suck, but the number one most important thing about the Technical is not that it's armed, but how fast it is. I've got plenty of videos where I take 3 Technicals and we surround a BTR, or we get to a point before a BTR expects us to get somewhere, and we ambush it, and you can easily take out a BTR with Technicals. You just need to know how to position them. For example, you're not going to drive the Technical straight into the enemy. you have to use it. Think of the technical as a emplacement, like a dishka emplacement, or a 50 cal bunker, or something like that. It's not a mobile gun platform. You got to use it as an emplaced heavy machine gun and move it around every now and then. You don't want to be firing it while moving. You don't want to be, you know, trying to go head to head with enemy elements. You want to be using it as a rapidly deployed HMG. So that's kind of how I use technicals. Like, I'll find a really nice spot to park the technical for the dishka, and I'll just sit it there, and the dishka will do its job and, you know, engage what it can, and then maybe like 10 minutes later I'll move the technical somewhere else. Like, it's not supposed to be like going head to head with enemy infantry and, you know, enemy vehicles. You need to use it in cohesion with your infantry, simply because it's so lightly armored and so exposed. You need to use the technicals in positions where either they're not expected or they're supported by enough friendly units that you can successfully fire the dishka without getting shot off. So that's how I think about technicals. Is they're just mobile gun platforms that you stop and then you move. You don't necessarily want to be firing in motion at the enemy head on. That kind of goes for Humvees as well, simply because Humvees are pretty lightly armored, like 2 RPG hits and you're done, and the gunner can also get shot out. I like driving my Humvees and my technicals to like high walls or areas where most of the vehicle is covered, but the turret on top or the dishka in the back has good field of fire in the direction I want it to be looking. So overall, I think all 3 vehicles serve their own unique purpose. Like, you have the BTR on the heavy end, the technical on the light end, and the Humvee somewhere in the middle. And they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and it's pretty awesome to see it. Like, I kind of think of it like StarCraft. Like, the Zerg would be the technicals, and then the Protoss would be the BTR, and the Terrans would be the Humvees, simply because of how it plays. Like, the BTRs are these slow, lumbering giants that do crap tons of damage and can do so many things, but they're slow and they can be easily outmaneuvered, and you can beat it to certain areas. While the Humvee is just a good, solid, all-around vehicle that you can use for multiple things, but you can't use it to go head-to-head with a BTR or to rush objectives like a technical. And then the technical has that speed and that maneuverability to put you in really advantageous places really fast, and then zip to another advantageous position. You don't really want to be using that mobility head-to-head with a Humvee or a BTR and just driving straight at it. You need to just get to a good spot before that Humvee or the BTR can get there and park and then ambush it, and then zip off to another good location. And that's basically, I guess, my thoughts on the vehicles. Like, people think certain vehicles suck and certain vehicles are overpowered, but I think they're all fair in their own unique asymmetrical way, and it's really interesting, and I really like how OWI translated their asymmetrical play not only in the infantry combat, but also now in the vehicle combat. So I hope this helped you and gave you some insight as to how I think about vehicles and how I use vehicles. And maybe you can take something away from this and, you know, improve on how you, as a squad leader, how you use these vehicles. You know, don't drive that technical out the open. Park it somewhere nice. Once it's exposed and it's been compromised, move it to another good location. Rush to good positions to outmaneuver and get really good fields of fire on BTRs and Humvees before they can expect it. And make sure when you're using a technical or Humvees against, you know, heavier armor, that you either work together with other vehicles or you don't engage them head on, because you will lose that fight. I think I have a video a couple days ago of like 3 technicals, and we ambushed a BTR, and it works so well because they have no idea what to expect, because we get there so fast, and then it's not just 1 technical they're going head to head with, it's 3, and that will really mess up a BTR. So I hope you take something away from this. I hope this helps you, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take it easy. Alright, we're gonna head back down that street that we came from, right? Basically, we're tracing our steps.